Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Board Explorer, and I'm back on my walk on the Sussex border walk, in which I'm going to be walking around the entire border of Sussex, and I've started in Worthing. This is episode 2. So I'm on my way going westwards, but before I leave Worthing and head towards, I'm guessing Goring would be the next port of call, although Heen is before that, which is, I suppose, technically part of Worthing now, but it was its own separate community. I've sort of come inward from the coast. I started at Worthing Pier and I'm just coming upwards. I'd just like to say I'm indebted to Helen Sparks, who got in touch having watched the previous video and said, oh, did you know, you're walking around all these lovely old houses, there's some beautiful Worthing heritage trails, and she gave me the link to it. And actually, if you're coming to Worthing, I think these heritage trails are brilliant. I'm not going to have the time to do them on this walk because I am now heading westwards, but I've decided for my first port of call here before I leave Worthing is to visit the Holy Trinity Church. And there's so many places you could go to. There's so much history just in this town, as indeed any town in England, so you're spoilt for choice really. So I've just picked out a little interesting stroll today to illustrate, I think, part of Worthing's heritage. So this is a relatively modern church that I'm looking at, and it's the Holy Trinity Church. It was built in 1882, well, between 1882 and 1886. It's of red brick stone, or red brick and stone, and it's made in English bond, I think. It was designed by Edward Coe and Stephen Robinson. They were the architects. It's grade 2 listed. The interesting thing about this is it's built where it is just off Shelley Road, to the west of Worthing town, and I'm sort of parallel to Rowlands Road where I was yesterday. But the thing about it is, it was here because of the Gratwick estate expansion that was going on in Worthing, and more houses were coming in during this late Victorian period. A lot of prosperous houses, a lot of Victorian villas were going up, and of course they needed somewhere to go to church. Now, unfortunately, it is closed. It's, I don't know quite why, I think it is dangerous. That although only 100 and, what are we talking about, 130, 140 years, it's all sort of falling to bits. And at the moment it's closed. Now, it's grade 2 listed, so I don't know what the plan is for it. But I hope that they don't knock it down or turn it into something that the members of the public can no longer get into it. But it is the fate of so many of our churches, this. But it's a rather splendid building, and you pass it these days and probably don't look twice. And that's a bit of a sad thing. Unfortunately, this does seem to be the fate of many of our churches now at the moment. I did a video called Crumbling Churches some years ago. I don't quite know what the answer is going to be, because not only have the majority of us moved away from religion, most of us don't have the money to put into the churches. And I think the churches themselves, or the church operators, are still struggling to find out how to make them viable and bring some income in. But there has to be an answer somewhere. Right, I'm going to leave the Holy Trinity and carry on along Shelley Road. Forgot to mention the Holy Trinity Church there behind me. It cost £6,000 to build. God knows how much it would cost if you wanted to build it now. So I'm walking along Shelley Road. One of the things that interested me, and I mentioned this in the previous video, was that there are a lot of hotels and boarding houses and bed and breakfasts as people came to Worthing, especially in the expanse as it got more and more larger, and there were a number of the Victorian villas and things. And I'm a great advocate of looking on old maps, and on old maps you'll find all sorts of fascinating bits of history, things that have changed. And one of the things I wanted to have a look at now is to nip down in Byron Road here and have a look at some of the changes that have since occurred. So behind me we're coming up to Cranley Court. It's now flats, but back on the old maps of the early 1900s, this was the Cranley Court Hotel, and it was a splendid hotel, I imagine. And but now it's all changed. I love looking at the old maps to see what has happened. But it probably looked very much like this grand Victorian building next to me on that side. If I just go down the road a bit here, Cranley Court behind me, the next building, another Victorian villa, which unfortunately now has a car park in it instead of probably what was a very nice garden at one point, is listed on the old maps as the Worthing Bridge Club. Lovely place for those who had the money to come and get into their fours and play bridge. How delightful. So I'm rounding the corner off Shelley Road into Southey Road, Southey, however you want to pronounce it. And just behind me there, if you can see that, is a very beautiful horse chestnut tree. Obviously it's lost all its leaves, but in the shade of the trees that I'm now under, which looks like Holm Oaks, you can see behind me a building here, which I think it's called Cambridge Lodge, which is a bit odd because at one time this was another hotel. On old maps we can quite plainly see it was the Palace Court Hotel. Beautiful name. There are many Palace Court hotels, of course, but this one was the Worthing one. I did try to look up some information briefly on the internet, but could I find anything? Alas, no. It's now, I think, either flats or a residential care home, I believe. On the opposite side, just to show you how popular Worthing was with its hotels, these sort of westward hotels, here was another one which was Southey Hall Hotel. I believe this is also another care home. And Worthing got this reputation for being a place for the elderly, the retired colonels and the old sea captains and what have you. And so all around here, these old Victorian villas have actually transformed themselves from either big houses for large important families or boarding houses or guest houses or hotels into care homes, which is a very, of course, worthwhile and useful service. But at the same time, it's quite sad to see the original use of these properties disappear. Right, we haven't quite finished yet, because I want to take you down Southey Road to an alleyway. One of the hallmarks of Worthing at one time, not so much now as you can see on this sort of tarmac path, was its pink paving slabs. They were everywhere, and I'm sure many people will remember them. And also these flint and brick walls that you see on the sides, absolutely everywhere. And of course the flint very much in keeping with the South Downs and the seafront. And here is the alley I wanted to take you into. Nursery Lane. Nursery Lane. Why so? Worthing was renowned in the mid 19th century, once the railways had came, for its market gardens and the growing of vegetables and all sorts of fruits was very important to Worthing's heritage and history and its financial commerce. And if you look at old maps, you will see that there are marked on it hundreds of glasshouses. And glasshouses was a huge industry in Worthing. In fact, there were over 200 glasshouse businesses doing the market garden, and it was thanks really to the railway coming along the stretch that they could do this. This is Nursery Lane, and here there were some glass houses. They've all gone now, of course. There's a big Georgian Victorian villa here, but where I'm taking you next, you'll see on the map that there was these glass houses. It changed at different points, so from about the 1930s, 40s, I'm not 100% sure, but the maps that have been produced change, and you'll see that then it was the Worthing Home here for the blind, which me, who has one eye, have always got a sympathy for those people who don't have any eyes or any sight. Of course, it's all new now. It's all new. So the nurseries have gone, the Worthing Home for the Blind has gone, and now we have these more modern houses, which I'm not quite sure what they do. They back onto the backs of Victorian terraces here, or some of them, with some newer developments in. Worthing is constantly, like any other town, I guess, under development. But the market gardening was a thriving industry and very important in the country. It was because of the sunshine that we had here and also the rich soil. And so people were growing stuff outside and in small glass houses, but it was pioneers like George Beer, who in 1870 claimed that he had built the largest glass house, and then other people copied, and this was a thriving industry. And there are still glass houses about, but not in the same way as you can imagine. There's a brilliant article about it. I'll leave the link in the description down below. It tells you a lot more with some pictures. But that's really my video for today. I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm going to carry on. Actually, I've sort of come around in a bit of a circle now, but I shall carry on westwards in the next one. If you've got a little bit of tidbit of information, then do let me know. I'm very keen to hear about them. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Become a patron, support what I do, and I'll continue with these videos. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye-bye.